Good afternoon. It's good to see you, Estelle.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I am too. We've been planning. So thank you for joining us. We're streaming on LinkedIn and on YouTube for anybody who is going to be showing up as a trusted
That's right.
authority on camera. We've been planning this live stream for quite some time. It's taken us a second to get it together, but I'm really glad that we did.
Yes.
We're talking, so Estelle and I'll let Estelle introduce herself in a second, but we both work with attorneys. I work with attorneys on creating video and showing up on camera, and Estelle is a stylist for attorneys. Are you a former lawyer?
I am. Yes. I
Okay,
still
yeah.
have my license because you just never
Yeah.
know, but not
Yep.
actually practicing.
Very good. All right. So the two ways that we work with that particular group of people, we thought would meld very well together. I know that one of the biggest challenges that my clients have when they show up on camera, wherever that may be, is like the question I get most often is, what do I wear? What color is it? How do I don't like this. This doesn't look good on me, but I don't know how to figure it out. And of course, you get the same questions, I'm sure.
Yeah.
From people who are, looking to, I guess, show up in a professional way, but also with a little bit of pizzazz or their personality.
Right.
So, yeah. Do you want to take a second and introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. So I'm Estelle Winsett. As Carrie mentioned, I am a lawyer turned personal stylist, and I specialize in helping female lawyers. I know the world so well because I practiced law for 7 years, and then I was in law firms for another 20. And so I just realized there was a lack in the market for stylists who really understood what female lawyers needed to wear to look professional, but still add in personality. And so I love helping women figure it out because there's so many dress codes we have to navigate, from the most formal to the, being in the court to going on firm retreats where you might be wearing shorts. And it's very stressful to figure out, how do I show up as a professional, but still bring in my personality. And so that's why I think what we're going to be talking about today is how can you do that via video? And a lot of it translates to how you're showing up in person too.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, what looks good in person is oftentimes what looks good on camera. And I think probably the key as well for you, and tell me if I'm wrong, is when you're working with people, they have to feel like they're wearing the clothes rather than the clothes wearing them. So I'm assuming that you also work with people and like, let's bring yourself into this process as well. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. And really on two respects, like you don't want the clothes to be wearing you in terms of, you're having your personality not shining through, but also with fit, because if you are wearing something that is way too big for you, then the clothes are wearing you, and that's what people see instead of you. And so that's why fit is so important to feeling like they're seeing you when you show up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that all said, we will get started. So just as a reminder, if you are joining us and you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. Sometimes depending on where you're showing up, if it's LinkedIn or if it's YouTube, the chat can get a little bit challenging with the platform that we use to stream. So if you have a question that either for some reason doesn't get popped up on the screen and doesn't get answered, or that you feel a little bit weird about asking in front of others, then by all means, feel free to DM either Estelle or myself and ask your questions there. We absolutely promise we will get back to you. And at the end of this live stream, we'll have a couple of links for you if you're interested in taking a style quiz, booking a consult call, whatever the case may be. So I'll take a quick moment to introduce myself. If you haven't seen me before, my name is Carrie Barrett. I do not have a law background. I have a news background. I was on air for 20 years as a TV news anchor, as an Emmy award-winning TV news anchor. As of this past Friday, I am now officially a TEDx speaker as well. And thank you. It was awesome. And I'd love to do one again. I don't mean my performance was awesome, although I think it was pretty good, but the whole experience was amazing. So thank you. Yeah. And I work with lawyers and others, but mostly lawyers, to turn those moments on camera, whether it's a media appearance or a video on LinkedIn or a video podcast, or anytime you're really in front of the camera, how to turn that into credibility, connection, and of course, clients. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to do that today without overthinking and without over editing and turning into one of those sort of stiff, blinking versions of ourselves. So
Wait. Kara, are you suggesting that as lawyers, we have a tendency to overthink?
I would never suggest that. I would confirm that absolutely wholeheartedly. Well, it's, the thing about video that is such a challenge, I think, and this is not just apply to lawyers, but I would say to some degree more often to that particular group of people, is that someone explained this to me and it made such perfect sense. A former lawyer said the reason video is so hard for us is because we've been trained, and rightly so, that even a small typo in a document renders it null and void. And we bring that same mindset into certainly when we're writing posts or we're contributing to a legal article or we're talking at a legal conference. And so obviously we bring that to anytime we're in front of a lens as well, which usually means most people don't step in front of the lens, which is a mistake. And we'll talk about why in just a second.
Yes,
but
I agree.
There's no chance that what you're going to do in front of a camera is ever going to be perfect. Like, I have some Emmy Awards. Those shows weren't perfect and I wasn't perfect in those shows, but it's still showing up because the people who are searching for you are searching for someone who can explain what they need to know in an easy, clear, understandable kind of way. And that sort of dovetails really nicely into why video is important. And there was a statistic I found this morning on, I think it was on Clio, I believe. And they were saying that about 2/3 of people who are looking for legal services start their search online. And it's not just Google. It's not just AI. It's very often YouTube. And they're asking questions like, what do I do after a car accident? Or how does the divorce process work in, whatever state they're in, Pennsylvania? They're looking for answers and they're looking for somebody who can help them. So if you're not creating video, you're not showing up in those searches. And the video itself, aside from making you show up in search, it also helps you demonstrate your expertise at scale. I talked about contributing to legal articles, for example, legal journals, which is great. But most of the time, the readers of those particular articles are other lawyers, which is great for referral opportunities. But if you're looking to talk to clients, that's probably not where you're going to find them. And so they don't scale. They don't reach the people who actually need your services. The other thing that video does is it really helps you build a brand. And I'm sure there's the idea of building a brand often makes lots of people, not just attorneys, but we're talking about attorneys today, it makes them uncomfortable. It feels self-promotional and it feels a little sleazy. But I want to take a second to reframe that right now, because what a personal brand is simply being known for something. It's about people being able to articulate what makes you different. What you're particularly good at, what you stand for. And video is the single most effective tool for building a personal brand because it is the most personal medium. We get a sense of who someone is more than just a name on a business card or at the top of letterhead. And, visual impressions are part of that message. And that's where what you wear and how you show up on camera comes into play as well, which is, what you advise your clients on how to show up in the way that they dress and the way they style themselves.
Right. Well, and also I was just thinking as you were talking about the importance of video and how you can connect with potential clients. And especially given the different practice areas. For example, if you're a family law attorney, you want your clients to feel like they can tell you their, most stressful situations, be able to be vulnerable with you. And if you're talking and they feel like they know you because you can see
Yeah.
you can see your mannerisms, you can see how you talk, and you're a real person. It's almost like they can tell if they'll click with you or not. But that's completely devoid if you don't have video where people can, because a flat photo does not do the same thing. So
It did 100% doesn't do the same thing.
yeah.
Let me ask you this, when we're talking about video content, a lot of time, most attorneys are not looking to be TikTok influencers. They're not
Right.
interested in any, they're building and creating authority generating content and credibility generating content. How does wardrobe affect authority? Like, how do you bring those two elements together?
Yeah. So one way that what you're wearing affects authority is, are you showing up consistently? When you have a signature style, then people know what to expect from you. For example, if let's say pink is your color. And by the way, I recommend that you pick a color that is not black or navy because you raise the game and separate yourself from the pack. But it's about when you show up in a similar manner every time someone sees you, then they start to feel like they can trust you. They know who you're about, how you're going to show up. It brings more certainty and it builds in trust. Whereas if you are someone who, this is why I'm so adamant against things like Stitch Fix. It's because they'll send you clothes that represent one type of style personality, like maybe a classic style. And then the next month they'll send something that's more eccentric or boho. And so if you wear what's just in the box, then you're not giving a consistent, streamlined impression or personal brand, which confuses your audience. And so that's why that authenticity piece and kind of having a consistent style is important to establishing you as an authority. And the other thing about that is you want your photo on LinkedIn to look like you now, because if someone, or your website to look like you now, because if you meet someone for a client consult and you look nothing like the photo, that erodes trust, because they're like, wait a minute, what's this person hiding? Because this is not how they looked like online. And we don't even think about that, because I think as attorneys, we think, I feel like I was taught in law school that, selling yourself is spammy. You don't want to do that. This is a noble profession, and it can still be a noble profession, but that doesn't mean that we don't explain what we do to reach our clients. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tirade. But
No, I'm glad you went into it. And I do think it's important. There's often that I had somebody DM me the other day, and you mentioned sort of feeling like sleazy or self-promotional. Sometimes some of the pushback I get from attorneys when they're talking about creating video. I had somebody say to me the other day that they're worried that they're going to show up as I'm using his words, as a billboard attorney. There is I think a sense when you're thinking about how you dress and where you show up and what you're talking about, that there's a fear that you're moving into that territory, when really the things that you and I are talking about is just making you stand out, making you look authoritative, and making you hopefully comfortable wherever you show up as well.
Yep.
Yeah,
definitely. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges I think women have when they come to me, is feeling like their outward representation, how they are showing up in their clothes, is not representative of who they are. Like, for example, an example would be, they've made partner, but they still have suits in their wardrobe from their on-campus interviews. You're not the same person. You've evolved.
Yes.
And your style, right? And your style preferences. And so if you're wearing something that feels true to who you are, then it adds to that imposter syndrome. It makes you feel not 100% in the moment, because you don't feel connected to what you're wearing, so it doesn't feel like you.
So you mentioned one of the things that people should have is a signature color. Are there other things that you generally advise people on? Like, I don't know, whether it's fit or it's neckline or what other tips are there for people as they're thinking about what they need to pull together to look and feel their best selves wherever they're going to be showing up?
Yeah. So really there are three elements, and this is what I walk my one-on-one clients through, that I think are important to creating your signature style. And one is figuring out what you like in terms of style preferences. Like I said, a lot of times as women, we don't even evaluate. As younger women, a lot of times we were into fashion or thought more about it. And then as we go through our careers, we get busy and style's just an afterthought. And we kind of forget what is our style. We haven't thought about it. And so it's really tapping into if you could have any style in the world, what lights you up, get more of that, because that's going to help you feeling more confident. So understanding your style preferences, fit is so important. In fact, I think of all of the factors, that's the most important in showing up stylishly and professionally, because one thing I always tell people is if your clothing fits you impeccably, then it shows to the outward world that you understand details and attention to detail, and you'll do the same with their work if you're representing them. And so it goes beyond just the clothes, but it shows that this is an important thing to do. It matters. You took the time to do it well, and that speaks to kind of your ethics of your work ethic and that kind of thing. So it's fit, style preferences, and then also color. There are a lot of different ways. One, wearing color that actually draws out your natural coloring instead of washing you out. So that's one thing, I help women with figuring out what's your best color, what kind of makeup should you wear. Color is also a really great tool. If you think about it in terms of the psychology of color, different colors evoke different emotions. Like you're wearing blue, that would be one of trustworthiness and dependability. So that's a great color to wear if you are a family law attorney and you're trying to create that, trust with your potential clients. Pink's a little bit bolder. It's almost kind of like red, which is just a power color. Lighter pink is more, whimsical or, feminine. So there are a lot of different ways that colors can evoke the message you're trying to send. And so if you actually dig into that, then you can get even more clear with showing up authentically and kind of how you want to represent yourself.
Yeah. Is there anything that's completely counterintuitive that you advise people on, something that most people are surprised by when you tell them?
Well, I think that so often we've been told black is what we should wear to be professional. And I was like, please, if you can help it, wear something other than black, because it's gonna, you're gonna stand apart. Like otherwise you just look, I can't tell me people are like, oh, this is my funeral photo, their website photo. And it's like, well, it's just not helping you. Right. And you think it's like the professional thing to do. And it doesn't mean you can't wear black, but I just feel like you're just blending in. And so find something that, I think the thing that also surprises a lot of my clients is you can wear color and it still looks professional. You can have a very tailored blazer in a, teal or in, a deep magenta that still looks professional, but it adds in some personality. So color, I think color gets a bad rap sometimes.
I love that you mentioned like tailor, because oftentimes we go to the store and we buy something, we like the color or we like the pattern or whatever it is. And it is those little details that can take something that may look sort of boxy and weird and make it look like it's part of you. That detail is so important.
Definitely. And when something fits you really well, that's when you feel the most confident. If something is oversized, then you're drowning and you kind of look like you're wearing your, dad's blazer. I did that when I first started practicing law. Or tight, you're not only physically uncomfortable, but it's not a flattering look. And so that the clothes that fit you really well is going to really serve you.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you said black, and you also mentioned navy blue when we first started talking. And I remember I had a stylist at NBC when I worked there who said the surest way to blend in wherever you go is to wear black and navy blue. And it's one of the reasons that they would never, I don't want to say they wouldn't let us wear black on the set, but it was discouraged. And I would say this, if you're going to be showing up on camera, unless your lighting is absolutely pristine, and it is, which most of us don't have at our home studios or our office studios, like black is one of those colors that you should just avoid wearing when you're in front of the camera. It makes a bad lighting situation worse. And interestingly enough, although black, I live in New Jersey, which is like, I'm just over the river from New York, which are the Pibs, the people in black. Everybody wears black from head to toe all day, every day. However, while it's really flattering in person, I know that on camera, where black is slimming in person, on camera can make you kind of look like a little blob, because you can't really see the difference between where your torso ends and your arm begins. So again, while it's flattering and slimming in person, wearing black oftentimes in front of the camera is not the way to go. Same with white. It can do the same thing, especially if you have poor lighting, it can really blow you out. So I think that's key. And I love that you mentioned the attention to detail. I talk about the same thing when I'm talking to clients about creating video, and I sometimes can get a little nitpicky over the things like lighting and how you're framed in the shot.
Yeah.
And it's not because it's just about aesthetics. It's because this is, establishing who you are and your brand. And if there's sloppiness around it, even if somebody isn't articulating, this looks sloppy, therefore I don't know how much so-and-so, how much attention they put into detail, that subconscious thought is there. If the lighting looks crappy and the audio sounds bad and you're way down at the bottom of your monitor and there's
you got the camera where they're like looking up your nose. Yeah, like, we first had the Zoom, it was awful. Like partners would be in there. Oh my gosh, I can't even, like, just laughing at the Zoom angles.
Are you aware of what's going on? But it looks like you're not, which I think is one of the most, that attention to detail is part of a lawyer's training. And it's key when it comes to showing up. Now, here's where I will depart from that thought a little bit. Sometimes that attention to detail inhibits or prohibits people from ever getting in front of the lens to begin with. They struggle, razor sharp attorneys struggle, and then suddenly all of this training comes to a head and they forget how to be human when they're showing up in front of the camera. They're blinking like they're trying to send Morse code and wondering what to do with your hands and all that other sort of stuff. And I want to take a quick second to talk a little bit about why the camera is so challenging for so many people. So number one, as an attorney, you're likely used to talking to people in person. The camera removes that feedback loop, right? So there's not
eye contact back. Yep.
Yes, right. When you're in person, you're scanning faces and you're reading energy and you're looking at body language, and maybe you're probably adjusting what you say or how you say it on the fly. And when you're on camera, you don't have any of that, right? And then you couple that with that training or that overtraining where you're hardwired now to be a perfectionist. Video actively punishes perfectionism, right? You can't brief your way through a camera moment. You've got to be certainly present, but that polish that you're used to doesn't translate as well as you think it does when you're on camera. And then you mentioned, how you look professional, but also bring your personality to it. Yeah. Oftentimes, with the way people dress, the way attorneys dress, and the way that they show up on camera, they've just squeezing all the life out of your personality. You know what I mean? Like you go into this sort of formal mode.
Yeah, it feels scary because you feel like you are kind of taking a mask off, but that's really what you need when you're trying to relate to other people, especially if you're doing videos for client development.
Right.
You want to be relatable, because otherwise it's just a talking head that, anyone could be that person, and you want to develop your own personal brand or what makes you unique.
Right.
Personality is a part of that.
Right. I have a question. Prior to us going live, you were mentioning a little bit about the earrings that you're wearing.
Oh, yeah.
Jewelry's one of those things that I think, it seems like a small detail, and I'm wearing little tiny pieces right now, but I love your earrings, and you can still wear like statement pieces like those while you are in a professional capacity. So how do you go about, how do people pick out their jewelry wardrobe?
Yeah, no, I think it's super important, especially if you're thinking about doing a video. I mean, you've really just got this box. And so what within that box can you bring that shows your personality? And for me, I think earrings or necklaces are a great way to do that. As long as they're not distracting. Like, these don't make any sound, but they're adding a pop of color. Like my neckline is like this. The reason I didn't wear a necklace is I didn't want something to fight with the neckline. So you want to think about that. If I had a necklace over this and it was like bulky and distracting, then that's what someone's looking at. But the earrings, they just kind of complete the frame, add in personality without being too distracting. And so I think that you want to think through that and figure out what lights you up. I mean, I'm someone who actually likes more statement, bigger jewelry. And so tapping into what that is and how can you find those pieces that when you pair with something conservative, you still look professional, but you're bringing in your personality. And so that's when I'm working with clients, we talk through your style preferences. I was kind of mentioning that before. And I think when you can figure out what is that, what feels like you, start with what you wear on the weekend and see, okay, what's something that you naturally gravitate towards, and figure out, okay, how can I start bringing in those elements? And jewelry is a great way to do it with your professional wardrobe.
Yeah. Well, walk us through, because we're coming up on the end of our live stream here in a little bit. Like, walk us through, if you can, what your style process is when you're working with somebody. Like, what would they expect when they come to you and say, "Holy cow, Estelle, I need help"?
Yeah. So when I'm working with a client, I think most people think when you work with a stylist that you're going to go straight to shopping, and that is not what I do. I have a very intentional process I take my clients through that I've just perfected over the years. And we start with creating what I call your signature style blueprint. So that's really getting clear on, if you got any style in the world, what would you want? Because the world really is your oyster. You don't have to just be tied down to the 3 stores that are geographically close to you. I think a lot of people get stuck in that. And so I help you I'll help them figure out, like, what are their style preferences, and all women have them. I always get the people that say, "I'm sorry, I can't wear certain shoes." I'm like, we all have our stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just a preference. And, like, figuring out what does that mean for you? I help them figure out.
Oh, Estelle, did we
change? Uh-oh, do you still see me?
I have you back now. You were frozen there for a second.
It's so weird. The screen just did a little weird thing. Okay, sorry. So yeah, let me figure out the style vibe. You can tell we're live. I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but we're rolling with it. The second thing I help women figure out is their body shape, because as women, a lot of times our bodies change from hormonal changes and shift around, and we don't know how to dress that. And so really kind of helping you figure out what silhouettes are going to be the most flattering for your body shape. And then I do the online color analysis. So I help you figure out what are the best colors to wear, especially close to your face, what colors are going to wash you out that you might want to avoid. And that kind of becomes your blueprint. And then I help my women figure out, okay, what are 2 to 3 different areas that you need looks for in your life? So a lot of times with my clients, it's, business casual, because the law firms are more casual nowadays. But then I also might need some speaking outfits or some trial outfits. And so it's really bespoke to whatever their particular needs are. Once I know that, then I just kind of reverse engineer it. I'm like, if you need outfits for these occasions, this is what you need in your closet for a foundation. Here's a shopping list. And then I go source the pieces for them, thinking through their style preferences, their body shapes, and their colors. And so I just kind of, the first part's done with them. And the second part is me going out and sourcing those pieces for them, so that shopping becomes much easier. They get things that work for them. And then at the end of my process, I put outfits together for them in those different categories that they identified. So they just kind of get head to toe looks, and it becomes a paint by number. Don't have to think about what you're wearing anymore. Just look at your phone. So.
What if somebody, so as you're talking, I'm thinking of my own closet, and I have all these TV clothes in there, like,
oh, I bet.
Which are usually good on camera. But you're right. Like, my style, I'm a different person now than I was when I first started. And styles have evolved. I've evolved. And to be nice, it's an eclectic mix.
You know what it is? Listen, well, first of all, you are not alone. And I think this is such an important point. It's because as women, we typically shop for events, and it can be random events, like weddings, like things we're not going to go to on a regular basis. That's when we go shopping. So we end up having this hodgepodge of things in our closet that aren't designed for your everyday use. And so that's why you need to create that, because you haven't had the intentionality of, most of the time I need business casual looks for work, and I also need this. Then we go get it, and then you have it. And so you don't have to have that mind chatter in your head of what to wear.
So my follow-up question then to that is, as I think about what you wear on the daily basis, and I'm not meaning this to turn this about me, but I'm happy to.
Yes, tell me.
No, but I think about, when I was working in New York City, my wardrobe tended to have more of like an urban flair to it. When I was working in Texas, I had more of I don't know, it's not country, but it was more rustic. I don't know. The colors are different. And when I worked in Philly, so I don't really know. And I'm guessing that a lot of people struggle with this as well. How do I even know what my style is? Is there like a starting point that we should be, some questions we should be running through our minds as we think about who we are?
Yes, it's really kind of tapping into. I always tell people, like, what's your instinct? So when I'm working with
Okay.
clients, we start off with a Pinterest board, and it's kind of like figuring out, like, don't overthink it, like you were saying with the video. It's just like naturally,
Yeah.
what are you drawn to? And
Yeah.
I will put a link in the comments to my style quiz, because I've identified 4 attorney style avatars that are the most common that can give you a
Okay.
starting point. And in those, I have power pieces, and some direction on, what your style type is. So,
Yeah.
but if you think about tapping into where you are right now with your style preferences, not overthinking it. And once you create a Pinterest board, because visual images are really helpful, after you've had
Mhm.
like 25 to 30 pins, you start to see a theme. And that's what's
Right.
so fun. Oh, we have a question.
We
When
do.
you see a theme, then you kind of start to see, oh, I guess I really do like this pencil skirt kind of look, or whatever that is.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So we do a reminder, if you have questions that you're comfortable asking in front of the group, go ahead and put them in the comments now. This question is from Justin, and it's about, should attorneys wear glasses on video as facial features mature? So I'll answer from a video standpoint. And then if you want to answer from a style standpoint, I wear glasses. The biggest challenge with glasses on video, as far as I know, and you may have different thoughts on this, Estelle, in terms of what they look like when we mature, but it's that glasses glare, which really inhibits the audience's ability to see your eyes, which is one of the key components of video, right? It's a great way to establish rapport, is to let the viewer see your eyes, much as you would in person. And so to get around the glare element of this question, I would suggest having lighting that's not directly in front of you. It's not as much about the anti-reflection coating on your glasses as it is about geometry, which really just means don't put the ring light directly in front of you where you have that immediate reflection. I put my lights slightly above my face level, where my face is, and tilted down a little bit. So I still get that soft light, but I don't get the reflection into my glasses. But that's the lighting issue. What about the style issue, especially as your facial features mature?
Yeah, I think, well, from a style perspective, irrespective of whether or not, the aging, I think that glasses can be a signature style. For me, they are. Like, I'm just wearing kind of like a colored pair right now,
Yeah.
but I also have some that are cat eye that are just fun. So it's a personality piece for me. And I think if it adds to your aesthetic, then it can just add another element, such as, same as earrings. And so I think that's important. And you want it to frame your face correctly. In terms of, as you age, your maturity, as your face ages, I think the only thing that I would think through is, if it is highlighting wrinkles or anything you don't want it to highlight, just use something to like tame that down. I mean, it could just be, and I think it could be either sex could have just a little bit of like, almost like that foundation that just kind of smooths things out. And you might know more about that from your days of, being an anchor person. But like, I think like that would be the only thing I could think of that might highlight your skin. Do you have any thoughts on?
I find, so I never wore glasses when I was on set. Well, I didn't need them back then.
Right? I know. Same.
I remember waking up at like 45 and suddenly one day being like, I can't read anything. What the heck happened? Yes. So no, I agree with you. I do think sometimes when we lose a little bit of volume under our eyes, that wearing glasses, as long as they're not super thick, can actually disguise a little bit of that volume loss to some degree. But I would agree with you. The other challenge is that glasses can sort of flatten some of like the dimensions of our face, which is always a challenge with video anyway. It's why people are sort of shocked when they see themselves, because they don't, you've taken a 3D person and you've put them in this 2D box. And so angles are exaggerated or minimized or distorted, and glasses can potentially add to that distortion. So I would say, if you're going to think about a pair of glasses, and, video is a part of, your marketing that you're thinking of diving into a little bit more, I would as awkward as this sounds, I would do a quick talking head video at like the Lens Crafter or wherever you are,
Sure,
with your
sure.
frames on and see what they look like.
I
I mean,
agree.
yeah.
And I think kind of even if you're doing a Zoom call with
Yeah.
someone and you're not sure about what you're wearing, do a practice run and then watch
Yeah.
it back and see how you
Yep.
look. It's the same thing that I tell clients if they take a selfie for me of themselves in an outfit, the
Mhm.
way it looks on the photograph is so much different than you looking at yourself in the mirror. And that
Yeah.
can be really helpful in being like, I thought I liked the way this looked, but actually I don't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Because it looks different. It looks
exactly.
different on the screen for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
All right. With that, Estelle, we're over time a little bit. A quick reminder to people who may be watching on YouTube, if you or on LinkedIn, if you are interested in speaking to either one of us, Estelle, how should people get a hold of you? Should they find you on LinkedIn, or what's the best spot?
Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's just Estelle Winsett. Shoot me a DM.
Okay.
And then I will put the link to the style quiz in the comments, and you can take the
Okay.
free style quiz, and then that'll give you a way you can email me if you want to.
Awesome.
Yeah, and while I'm doing that, do you want to talk just briefly before we cover how you work with clients? Because I know we
Yeah.
talked about my process, but I think people would love to hear your process.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I work with people through a framework that I call MVP, which stands for message, vocal variety, and physical presence. And usually I work with people if I'm doing one-on-one coaching, I work with people anywhere between 6 and 8 weeks to get them up on step. I do have people that come to me for a one-off prep for video production or media training or podcasts they're getting ready, and we'll really hone into the messaging and that sort of thing. But usually I walk people through, first it's background and setup, and do you need gear, and where are you shooting, and what does it look like? Then we move into, those are the logistics. Then we move into the message. So how are you generating your content ideas? How are you structuring your videos? Do you understand the messaging that makes a video compelling and interesting? And once we understand the logistics and we understand the messaging element, we move into the actual delivery. And I just got your
I'm
hold on.
sorry, I didn't mean to distract you.
No, not at all. I want to make sure I
blocking
drop
comments.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, not at all. There's Estelle's style quiz. I just dropped it in the comments. So please go
sorry.
ahead and put that. No. So then we move into vocal variety, which is one of the biggest challenges and also the most underrated elements of your delivery. We think of video as being important because of the visuals, which it definitely is, but our voices are so powerful when we're on camera. And when we get nervous, our throats tighten, we tend to get smaller, our vocal variety diminishes, and we don't sound as powerful or authoritative as we could. So learning to use your voice effectively. And it really comes down to pacing, which is the gas and the brakes. It comes down to pitch, which is what words are you emphasizing? Where's your inflection, and how are you using that strategically to underscore what you're saying? And then projection, which is less about volume and more about the power with which you speak. Where are you talking from? Are you nervous and tight and talking up here, or are you talking from your belly, really? And then the final element is the physical performance or the presence. And this is one of the most difficult elements for people to wrap their arms around. And the reason is that it can feel very fake. And I always counter with, listen, anytime you are talking in front of an audience, it's a performance. I don't care if you are up on a stage, if you're in a conference room, or if you are in front of the lens. What I mean by performance, though, is not that you're being fake and not that you're putting on, a alter ego that isn't you. What I mean by performance is that you understand the challenges of the environment and you use everything you have in order to mitigate them. So a good example of how that would play out, and I'll use a sort of an extreme example, but it will demonstrate nicely what I mean by this. You could be in a small conference room with one other person, and it's quiet and it's bland and
Right.
right, we've all been in that one. And we can have there's not a lot of distraction. It's real easy to have a simple conversation or explain something to a client or a peer or whomever.
Mhm.
Now let's say you are in a massive stadium with 50,000 seats, and they're all filled with people, and there's stuff going on, and there's food, and there's concessions, and there's beer, and there's all this other stuff going on. If you were going to say those same exact words that you said in the conference room, how would you say them differently standing on that stage? Because you'd have to. If you said them the same way as you said them in the conference room, nobody would hear you.
Yeah.
That's what performance is. It just means overcoming the challenges of the environment around you or the environment around your viewer. And when you're on camera, you've got to leverage every single you got to use every single element that you can in order to make your message heard, which is something I learned from my 20 years in the broadcast world. So that's what I walk people through. I walk people through MVP, and then a big chunk of that is usually holding people's feet to the fire and making them do the videos. There's a lot of accountability that goes into that program as well.
Yeah.
And I mentioned, I'm starting a cohort. I'm launching a 6-week cohort on January 20th. So if you're watching this and you have questions about it, shoot me a DM and I'll send you over the info.
Nice. Well, I was just thinking when you were talking about how you're presenting on stage in a way when you're doing any kind of video, I think a really good way to articulate that to attorneys is it's just you're having to be an advocate. And we know how to do that in our writing. We know how to do that if we're a trial lawyer. It's just advocating. So like that's something we already have the tools and know how to do. And so if you could kind of frame it that way, then that might be another trick up your sleeve to help us with the videos.
No, and that makes perfect sense. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Attorneys understand that word and what it means and how you, for lack of a better word, do it. Right now, it's just doing it on a stage or in front of a lens.
Yeah. And it's doing it in your own way. I remember when I first learned to be a litigator, everyone has their own style of how they speak and how they're persuasive, and it has to be authentic to who you are. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to take on a different persona if you're not a very in your face loud. I mean, you don't want to be like that when you're talking because it won't come across as sincere.
Right.
But that loud, talking like that is not necessarily the only way to advocate on behalf of your client, and figuring out what that is and doing it in your own style is really effective.
100%. Awesome. Estelle, any final words before we wrap things up? This has been amazing. I know we've gone over, so I apologize. Hopefully you don't have anybody waiting on.
Yeah. No, I think that just like kind of what we talked about, there is a way to be authentic in how you show up in your style and how you speak on camera. And really it's about feeling more comfortable in your skin. And that is with having a style that reflects who you are, that sends the message you want to send, and that makes you feel the best about yourself because you're wearing something that is complimentary and flattering. But how about you?
No, I would say that video has become such a key component of the way not just attorneys, but all of us as business owners or firm owners or employees even can market ourselves. The nice thing is that in this particular space, in the attorney space, there's a huge opportunity because so few people are doing this. People are finding that when they are beginning to create video, and I should be clear, video doesn't necessarily only have to mean social media. It can mean videos for your website. It can mean videos for landing pages. It can mean a whole host of, it can be virtual events. But when you start showing up in that way, clients find you. And because there's not a lot of other people doing it, it means they find you that much more easily and that much more quickly as well. So there is the firms and the people who start doing this now are going to be I know it's down the road, they are going to be at a massive advantage a couple of years from now.
Ahead of the curve. Go ahead and do it while you can. Absolutely. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. So just get your reps in.
Get your reps in, get your color on, and get your reps in.
That's right.
Estelle, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me. This was a blast.
Absolutely. My pleasure. And just as a reminder, Estelle has her style quiz in the comments. So go ahead and take that. And I went and put 47 takes to one and done. It's a self-assessment that you can take in order to figure out what is the one key thing that you need to work on when it comes to your on-camera delivery. And that'll give you some advice and tips to do just that.
I love it.
Excellent. Thank you, Estelle. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
And thank you to the audience for joining us. We do appreciate it. We'll see you soon.